Chapter 1. The Call to Arms. In the infinite reaches of the galaxy, where stars are born and die in the blink of an eye, one tiny, remote world on the edge of the Milky Way was about to become the center of a war that would decide the fate of the entire universe. Captain Alex Solara sat at the controls of the starship Solace, gazing out of the viewing window into the vast, empty space. He had led countless missions before, but this one felt different. The transmission had arrived hours earlier had shattered the peace he had come to know. A distress call, encrypted with the unique signature of the Cinder Dominion. Is it possible? Alex muttered to himself. The Dominion was a name that sent shivers down the spines of those who had heard it. An empire of ruthless warriors, said to have been destroyed centuries ago. But the message was clear. They were back. The Cinder Dominion had risen from the ashes, and they were preparing to reignite the war that had ravaged the galaxy for generations. The transmission had come from a remote star system on the far side of the galaxy. There were no major colonies, no military forces stationed there. Just an abandoned planet with no strategic value except for the fact that it had been home to an ancient artifact, rumored to possess untold power. The Dominion had been searching for it, and now, it seemed they had found it. Alex leaned forward in his chair and activated the comms system. Plot a course to the Zyron system, he commanded. The navigational officer, Lieutenant Kasia, nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. The Solace hummed as its engines powered up, the ship ready to travel faster than the speed of light. We won't make it there in time, Kasia said quietly. The Dominion is already there. Alex's eyes narrowed. And we'll make sure they don't get what they came for. He turned to the rest of the crew. Prepare for battle. We're heading into the unknown, and we'll need every hand at the ready. The crew moved quickly, the urgency of the situation settling over them like a heavy weight. Alex had led them through countless skirmishes. But this was different. The Dominion was a foe unlike any they had faced before. As the Solace leapt into hyperspace, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The distress signal wasn't just a cry for help, it was a warning. The Cinder Dominion had returned, and they had a plan. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. Chapter 2. The Awakening of the Dominion. The Zyron system was located in a remote, uncharted region of space, far from the core worlds, far from the busy trade routes and populated colonies. It was a system that most had forgotten. But to the Cinder Dominion, it held the key to their resurgence. The Solace dropped out of hyperspace with a jolt, the stars outside the window shifting back into their familiar patterns. Kasia's voice came over the intercom, breaking the silence. We've arrived. But something's wrong. No sign of the Dominion fleet. Alex stood up and moved to the viewing window, staring out at the cold, desolate planet below. No sign doesn't mean no danger. Prepare for landing, and keep your eyes peeled. As the ship descended into the planet's atmosphere, the crew couldn't help but feel the weight of what they were about to face. Zyron was a barren world, its surface scarred by ancient battles long past. Yet, deep within the planet's core, hidden beneath miles of rock and dust, lay an old citadel, an ancient structure built by a civilization lost to time. The Dominion had found it. Alex could feel it in his bones. The landing was rough, the Solace shuddering as it touched down in the craggy landscape. The crew quickly suited up, grabbing their weapons and preparing for whatever lay ahead. Alex led them out of the ship, the desolate world stretching out before them like a forgotten graveyard. It wasn't long before they encountered their first sign of the Dominion's presence. Burnt-out warships, wrecked and abandoned, littered the surface. A message was painted in the dust at their feet. "We are not alone." The crew moved cautiously, scanning the area for any signs of movement. They had only just begun their search when a loud explosion rang out, and the ground beneath their feet shook. The Dominion had been waiting for them. The battle for Zion had begun. Chapter 3. An Unexpected Alliance. The battle on the surface of Zion was intense. Dominion soldiers, clad in black armor, appeared from every direction, ambushing the crew at every turn. Their tactics were brutal, efficient, and relentless. The Resistance's small force was caught off guard, outnumbered and outgunned. Alex ordered the crew to fall back to the Solace. And as they retreated, they encountered a surprising sight. A fleet of ships, unlike any they had ever seen. These ships were sleek and silent, their designs advanced in ways that defied logic. The ships appeared from the shadows, joining the fight against the Dominion. It was clear these were not allies, these were the mysterious Shadow Fleet. The Shadow Fleet had been operating in the dark corners of the galaxy for decades, their existence known only by the few who had survived their attacks. They were elusive, their motives unclear. Now, they had arrived, and their appearance could mean one of two things: an alliance against the Dominion, or the beginning of something far more dangerous. As the Shadow Fleet descended upon the Dominion forces, the Solace's crew fought to hold their ground. Alex realized they had no choice but to ally with the Shadows, at least for now. Their presence on Zion had given the crew a fighting chance. But the cost of this alliance was high. The Shadow Fleet had a price for their help, and Captain Alex Solara would have to decide if it was one he was willing to pay. Chapter 4. The Price of Power. The battle on Zion was not just a fight for survival. It was a battle of ideologies, of power, and of desperation. Alex Solara and his crew had barely managed to hold their ground against the Dominion's relentless assault. And yet, they had received an unexpected lifeline. The Shadow Fleet. The sudden appearance of these dark ships had changed the course of the battle, turning the tide in favor of the Resistance. But as Alex watched the Shadow Fleet ships engage the Dominion forces, he couldn't help but feel uneasy. These ships, sleek and silent, moved with deadly precision, their weapons cutting through the Dominion ranks like a hot knife through butter. But what was their true purpose? As the battle subsided and the smoke began to clear, Alex received a transmission from the commander of the Shadow Fleet, a woman whose voice was cold and devoid of emotion. "Captain Solara," she said, "you are in our debt. But this is only the beginning. The Dominion will not be defeated so easily. If you wish to survive, you will need to join us." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Alex with more questions than answers. What did the Shadow Fleet want with him? What was their true goal? "We have no choice," Alex said, turning to his crew. "We need their help to defeat the Dominion, but we need to be careful. I don't trust them. Not yet." His crew nodded in agreement, their faces grim. They had seen too many enemies come and go, too many promises broken, to trust easily. But the Shadow Fleet was different. They had saved them, and that debt could not be ignored. As the crew made their way back to the Solace, Alex's mind raced. The price of power was steep, and he knew that the Shadow Fleet would demand something in return for their help. The question was, what? Chapter 5. The Dark Pact. The crew of the Solace had no choice but to meet with the Shadow Fleet. They needed their help if they were to stand a chance against the Dominion. That Alex knew that alliances forged in the heat of battle were fragile, and the Shadow Fleet's motives were still unclear. The Shadow Fleet's flagship was a massive vessel, cloaked in darkness. It hovered above the surface of Siren, its sleek silhouette a stark contrast to the desolate landscape below. As Alex and his crew boarded one of the smaller shadow ships, they were escorted into the heart of the flagship. The interior was cold, sterile, and eerily quiet. Commander Valara, the leader of the Shadow Fleet, greeted them in a chamber that felt more like a war room than a meeting space. Her appearance was striking. Tall, with long dark hair, her eyes sharp and calculating. She was a woman of few words, but her presence commanded attention. "I assume you have questions," Valara said, her voice steady and devoid of emotion. Alex nodded. "What do you want from us? Why help us if we're just pawns in your game?" Valara studied him for a long moment before answering. "The Dominion is not just a threat to you, Captain Solara. They are a threat to everything. The universe, the balance of power, the very fabric of existence. We fight because we must, not because we desire to. And you are the key to our victory." Alex frowned. "I don't understand." Valara stepped forward, her expression dark. "The Dominion has been searching for an artifact, an ancient weapon of unimaginable power. It lies within the depths of this galaxy, and they will stop at nothing to claim it. We need you to find it before they do. We have the coordinates, but we need you to navigate through the most dangerous sectors of space, where the Dominion's presence is strongest." The weight of her words hung in the air. The artifact, whatever it was, could change the course of the war. But at what cost? "Why us?" Alex asked. "Why not send your own fleet?" Valara's eyes narrowed. "Because the Dominion will expect us. You, Captain Solara, are not the enemy yet. You have a chance to get close without raising suspicion." "And if we refuse?" Alex challenged. Valara's expression softened for the first time. "Refuse, and the Dominion will destroy you. And then they will come for the rest of us. We will all die if we do not act." Alex took a deep breath. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on him, but he knew there was no turning back. "We'll do it," he said. Chapter 6. Into the Abyss. The coordinates were set, and the Solace was ready to depart. The crew had their orders, and the stakes had never been higher. They were headed into the heart of the Dominion's territory, where the galaxy's most dangerous warlords and mercenaries roamed freely. Alex stood on the bridge of the Solace, watching as the vast expanse of space stretched out before him. The stars twinkled like distant promises, but the shadows of war loomed large. The first leg of their journey took them through a sector known as the Abyss. It was a region of space shrouded in mystery and danger. Pirates, rogue factions, and other enemies lurked in its depths, waiting to strike at any passing ship. As the Solace navigated through the Abyss, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The ship's sensors had picked up nothing, but the silence was deafening. It was as if the very fabric of space was holding its breath. Suddenly, a warning alarm blared throughout the ship. Keisha's voice came over the comms. "Captain, we've got company. Multiple ships closing in fast." Alex's heart raced. They had been ambushed. The Dominion's forces were upon them. The crew sprang into action, manning their stations and preparing for battle. The Solace was equipped with state-of-the-art weaponry, but the odds were not in their favor. The enemy ships were fast, heavily armed and well-coordinated. Alex's mind raced as he quickly devised a plan. Target their engines. We need to disable their ships without destroying them. The Solace's weapons fired in quick succession, taking out one enemy ship's engines. But the others were relentless, closing in on them with deadly precision. It was then that a new player entered the fray. A fleet of unknown ships appeared out of nowhere, attacking the Dominion forces with brutal efficiency. The ships were different from the Shadow fleet, more advanced, with energy shields that absorbed incoming fire. The new fleet engaged the Dominion ships with precision, slowly turning the tide of the battle. It wasn't long before the Dominion forces were forced to retreat, leaving Alex and his crew to wonder who these new allies were and whether they could be trusted. Chapter 7. The Mysterious Benefactor. As the last of the Dominion ships retreated into the void, Alex and his crew breathed a collective sigh of relief. But the victory felt hollow. They had survived the ambush, but they had no idea who had saved them. "We need to find out who they are," Alex said, pacing the bridge of the Solace. "They just appeared out of nowhere and helped us take down the Dominion. Who are they?" Keisha, the navigational officer, looked up from her console. "I've been scanning their ships, Captain. I can't find any match for their fleet in the database. It's like they're ghosts." Just then, a transmission came through, this time from the mysterious fleet. The voice on the other end was distorted, but clear enough to make out the words. "We have been watching you, Captain Solara, and we have a proposition for you." Alex's heart skipped a beat. "What kind of proposition?" "We know what you're after. The artifact you seek. And we know where it is. If you want it, you'll need our help." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Alex with more questions than answers. Who were these mysterious benefactors? And how did they know about the artifact? Chapter 8. The Artifact's Secret. The following days were a blur of tension and anticipation. The crew of the Solace had received an offer from the mysterious fleet, their help in locating the artifact. But with a catch. The benefactors were not to be trusted blindly. They had their own agenda, one that Alex could not yet fully understand. The coordinates they had given led Alex and his crew to a distant world, one hidden in a nebula surrounded by treacherous asteroid fields. The artifact was supposed to be buried on the surface, within an ancient temple long forgotten by time. As the Solace entered the atmosphere of the planet, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. But they had no choice. The artifact could change everything, could turn the tide of the war in their favor. But as they neared the surface, a new threat appeared. The Dominion had somehow tracked them, and they were closing in fast. Chapter 9. The Temple of Shadows. The Solace managed a rough landing on the surface of the planet. Its outer hull was battered from the Dominion's relentless pursuit, but the crew had made it. Before them stretched the vast jungle, shrouded in thick mist, with towering ancient trees that seemed to whisper secrets of a bygone era. In the distance, the shadowy outline of a massive temple rose against the horizon, its spires piercing the sky. The artifact lay within that temple if the benefactor's coordinates were accurate. "We're on a time crunch," Alex said, gathering his crew in the main hold. "The Dominion won't stop. They know what's here, and they're coming for it. We need to move fast." Keisha, always the cautious one, voiced what they were all thinking. "Captain, what if this is a trap? We don't know who our mysterious benefactors are, and the Dominion is too close for this to be a coincidence." Alex nodded. "I know, but we don't have a choice. Whatever this artifact is, it's important enough for everyone to fight over it. We need to secure it first." The crew armed themselves and set out, with Alex leading the charge. The jungle was eerily quiet, save for the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. Every step felt heavy, as though the planet itself resisted their presence. As they approached the temple, the air grew colder, and an unshakable sense of dread settled over them. The entrance to the temple was massive, flanked by towering statues of long-forgotten deities. Their eyes seemed to follow the crew as they entered. The interior was dark and foreboding, illuminated only by the faint glow of bioluminescent moss growing along the walls. Keisha scanned the area with her handheld device. "Energy signatures are off the charts, Captain. Whatever's in here, it's powerful." As they ventured deeper into the temple, they encountered ancient traps, collapsing floors, razor-sharp pendulums, and walls that threatened to close in on them. It was a harrowing journey, but their training and teamwork saw them through. Finally, they reached the central chamber. In the center stood a pedestal, and atop it lay the artifact. It was a sphere, pulsating with an otherworldly light. The air around it seemed to hum with energy, as though it were alive. Alex stepped forward cautiously. "This is it," he murmured. But as he reached for the artifact, the temple began to shake violently. Symbols along the walls lit up in fiery red, and an ominous voice echoed through the chamber. "You dare disturb the sacred relic? Prove your worth, or face annihilation." Chapter 10. The Trial of Fire. The chamber's walls shifted, revealing passages that radiated heat. Flames erupted from the floor, forming barriers that separated Alex from his crew. The artifact remained on the pedestal, glowing more intensely with each passing second. Alex turned to his crew. "Stay back, I'll handle this." Keisha shouted. "Alex, no. This isn't just a relic, it's some kind of test." But Alex was determined. He stepped forward, and as he did, a massive figure materialized before him, a guardian forged of fire and stone. Its eyes burned with an ancient rage, and its voice boomed throughout the chamber. "Only the worthy may claim the artifact. Do you possess the strength, the wisdom, and the heart to wield its power?" The guardian raised its fiery blade and charged at Alex. The fight was intense. The heat was unbearable, and Alex's every move was met with an equally powerful counterattack. But he noticed something. The guardian hesitated when he showed restraint, when he defended rather than attacked. Realizing the nature of the test, Alex lowered his weapon. "I'm not here to destroy," he said. "I'm here to protect, to ensure that this power doesn't fall into the wrong hands." The guardian paused, its fiery form flickering. The flames in the room subsided, and the voice spoke again. You have passed the first trial, but your journey is far from over. The pedestal lowered, and the artifact floated into Alex's hands. As soon as he touched it, visions flooded his mind, visions of a galaxy torn apart by war, of alliances forged and broken, of sacrifices made in the name of peace. When the visions subsided, Alex found himself back with his crew. The temple was calm once more, its traps deactivated. We've got it, Alex said, holding up the artifact. But the sense of accomplishment was short-lived. The Dominion was closing in, and the artifact's power was too great to remain hidden for long. Chapter 11. The chase begins. As the crew made their way back to the Solace, Dominion ships descended upon the planet. Their engines roared like thunder, and the jungle was ablaze with laser fire. The crew sprinted through the dense underbrush, dodging enemy patrols and the relentless bombardment. On board the Solace, Keisha worked frantically to prepare for takeoff. We're out of time, Captain. If we don't leave now, we're not leaving at all. Alex and the rest of the crew barely made it back before the Solace took off, weaving through a barrage of Dominion fire. The artifact pulsed in Alex's hands, its energy growing stronger with each passing moment. But the Dominion wasn't about to let them escape so easily. A fleet of warships pursued them through the planet's atmosphere and into the void of space. Chapter 12. Allies in the Void. The Solace was outnumbered and outgunned. The crew prepared for what seemed like a hopeless battle. But just as the Dominion closed in, a familiar fleet appeared, the Shadow Fleet. Commander Valara's voice crackled over the comms. We've been tracking you. Hold your ground, we'll handle this. Commander Valara's voice crackled over the comms. We've been tracking you. Hold your ground, we'll handle this. The Shadow Fleet engaged the Dominion forces, buying the Solace enough time to escape. But as Alex watched the battle unfold, he couldn't help but feel that the Shadow Fleet's arrival was too convenient. Chapter 13. Secrets of the Shadow Fleet. Once safely beyond the Dominion's grasp, the Solace docked at the Shadow Fleet's flagship, Eclipse. Alex and his crew were greeted by Commander Valara, who seemed more commanding and enigmatic than ever. The crew couldn't help but notice the deference with which her officers treated her, as though she were more than just a military leader. Captain Alex, Valara began, leading him and his crew to a secure briefing room. What you're carrying isn't just a weapon. It's a key to unlocking technology the galaxy hasn't seen in millennia. Alex narrowed his eyes. And you expect us to just hand it over to you? Valara smirked. Of course not. I don't need you to trust me. I need you to understand that if the Dominion gets their hands on it, they'll use it to enslave entire star systems. The revelation left Alex's crew uneasy. Keisha, ever the skeptic, asked, "What aren't you telling us? Why is the Shadow Fleet so interested in this?" Valara hesitated, then answered, "Because the artifact belongs to the architects, the civilization that built the network of jump gates across the galaxy. We've long suspected they left something behind, and now we know what it is." Chapter 14. The Architect's Legacy. Valar revealed what little the Shadow Fleet had uncovered about the architects. The ancient civilization had thrived millions of years ago, uniting the galaxy with their advanced technology. But something had caused their sudden disappearance, a catastrophe that left only remnants of their empire scattered among the stars. The artifact, Valara explained, was part of a system capable of activating dormant architect technology. If used correctly, it could revolutionize travel, communication, and defense. If misused, it could trigger devastation on an unimaginable scale. Alex's crew debated their next move. Kasia argued that they couldn't trust the Shadow Fleet. Gregor, ever the pragmatist, suggested working with them to keep the artifact out of Dominion hands. Alex, torn between his instincts and his responsibilities, decided to strike a deal. "We'll work together," Alex told Valara, "but the artifact stays with me. No one uses it until we know exactly what we're dealing with." Valara agreed, but her expression hinted at ulterior motives. Chapter 15. The Dominion's Counterattack. The Uneasy Alliance was short-lived. The Dominion, relentless in their pursuit, launched a surprise attack on the Shadow Fleet's position. Explosions rocked the eclipse as Dominion boarding parties breached its defenses. Alex and his crew fought alongside the Shadow Fleet, repelling the attackers and ensuring the artifact remained secure. During the chaos, Alex came face to face with Admiral Krenner, the Dominion leader who had orchestrated the pursuit. Krenner was a formidable opponent, her cybernetic enhancements making her nearly unstoppable. She cornered Alex, her mechanical arm crushing his weapon like paper. "You have no idea what you're holding," she hissed. "Give it to me and I'll spare your crew." But Alex refused. With a desperate move, he used the artifact itself, which reacted to his touch, emitting a blinding pulse of energy that forced Krenner to retreat. The power within the artifact was undeniable and terrifying. Chapter 16. Unveiling the Coordinates. After the Dominion's retreat, the artifact began projecting coordinates. Valara recognized them immediately. "That's a dead system," she said. "No stars, no planets, nothing." But the architects didn't leave random clues. Kasia countered, "We have to go." Desalis, escorted by a few Shadow Fleet ships, ventured into the desolate system. What they found was astonishing. A massive station hidden within a black hole's event horizon, protected by architect technology that defied unknown physics. Chapter 17. The Architect Station. The station was a marvel of ancient design, its structures glowing with an ethereal light. As the crew docked and explored, they found themselves in awe of the advanced technology around them. The walls seemed alive, responding to their presence, and the air hummed with latent energy. In the central chamber, they discovered a repository of architect knowledge. Holograms depicted the rise and fall of the ancient civilization, revealing their ultimate fate, a war against an unknown enemy that had wiped them out. But the station also held a warning. The artifact was not just a key, it was a weapon of last resort. Activating it could awaken remnants of the architect's enemies, dormant but not defeated. Chapter 18. Betrayal and Loss. As the crew studied the station, tensions between Alex's team and the Shadow Fleet boiled over. Valara, obsessed with unlocking the station's full potential, attempted to take control of the artifact by force. A skirmish broke out, resulting in devastating losses on both sides. Gregor sacrificed himself to protect the artifact, leaving Alex devastated but more determined than ever to prevent its misuse. The crew barely escaped the station, leaving Valara and the remnants of the Shadow Fleet behind. But as they fled, they realized the artifact activated something within the station, something ancient and hostile. Chapter 19. The Final Stand. The Salis returned to the galactic core, where a massive Dominion fleet awaited. Admiral Krenna had tracked them, and she was prepared to seize the artifact at any cost. But as the two sides prepared for battle, the station's defenses awoke. Ancient warships, unlike anything ever seen, emerged from the black hole, attacking indiscriminately. The Dominion and Alex's crew were forced into an uneasy alliance to survive. In the chaos, Alex realized that the artifact could deactivate the ancient ships, but doing so would destroy the station and potentially themselves. It was a gamble, but one he was willing to take. Chapter 20. A New Dawn. Using the artifact, Alex managed to shut down the station's defenses, saving countless lives. The Dominion fleet retreated, crippled and leaderless after Krenna's death in the battle. The artifact, its energy spent, disintegrated in Alex's hands. The knowledge of the architects was lost once more, but their warning had been heeded. The galaxy was safe for now. As the Solace drifted among the stars, Alex reflected on their journey. They had faced impossible odds, uncovered ancient secrets, and made sacrifices that would never be forgotten. Though the artifact was gone, its legacy remained the reminder that the galaxy's greatest treasures were worth protecting. "Where to next, Captain?" Kasia asked, her voice filled with hope. Alex smiled. "Anywhere but here." The Solace vanished into the void, a beacon of resilience in an ever-changing galaxy.
Subscribe to the channel and share this video if you found it valuable. Knowledge becomes more meaningful when it's shared.